Jaime from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today Get Creeping on Halloween, June 2023 Witch Switch. I will explain Get Creeping on Halloween in a little bit if you're new to it. I am pulling in my Big Grumpy stamps and the Halloween add-on. I, was feeling a little snarky for this month's make, and so this one just worked. So I laid out my images, took out the foam mat in my Misty, stamped everything down, stamped it again because I did not apply even pressure. And then I'm just going to come in and add a couple more hand stamped images to my panel. Now, I was going to color this right away, and then I realized I wanted to do a little bit of fun things on my background, so I did set this off to the side. But to add the sentiment to this one, bringing in a clear acrylic sheet just to make sure you have it lined up properly, because it is a red rubber stamp. It allows you to make sure that it's in the proper place. So for my background panel here, I am treating it with anti-static powder tool from Tailored Expressions, and I decided to do a little bit of masking here. What if I had to? No, I probably could have done a two-panel thing, but I hadn't decided what I was doing for the floor yet, so I wanted to mask it off, trying to make it, I wouldn't say a one layer, but the background panel one layer. And so I'm bringing in that Unraveled stamp set from Tim Holtz to do the bats on the side and some cobwebs. So for my bats, I use VersaFine Onyx black ink, and then for my cobwebs, I'm going to bring in Versa Mark ink so I can do clear embossing powder over all of it. But of course, the cobwebs will stay white that way, and the bats will be black, but they're still going to have that ink resist on them, so I don't have to worry about, them getting, I guess, covered up with my oxides if I choose to do some oxides. I'm actually stamping and ink blending today on some Ohuhu marker paper. I really like ink blending on this stuff. It's similar to Strathers, more Bristol Smooth. Can't talk today. And I recently, I can't remember if I did, I don't think I did a video on it, so I'll tell you now. I did some Zig Real Brush watercolor or marker watercolor on the Ohuhu paper pad, and it blended beautifully. So I was pleasantly surprised. I was just, being cheap and cheesy, because I really didn't want to use my alcohol inks, but I had a pack of it sitting out, some pre-cut ones sitting out, and so it worked. Anyways, back to my panel here. I really wanted to go with some classic Halloween colors. I didn't want to bring in any pattern paper. I just kind of wanted to play. It's why I do Get Creeping on Halloween, so I can play. So I'm bringing in some Distress ink and then some Distress oxides. I only have a few of the Distress ink pads in the full size, because I picked them up on clearance. That's why I have them. Or I bought the whole kit when the color came out, so that's why I would have them. But, I can't say one or the other. The regular ink tends to be, I think, just brighter, and so that's why I went with the brighter one. So I think I did Crushed Olive, Forest Moss, and then, of course, I brought in that Villainous Potion, because, hello, it screams Halloween, and Black Soot to darken everything up around the edges. I brought in some water to do some splatter on this one. And then, since I wiped that off, I'm just going to buff off all of the ink from my spider webs. And then I did bring in the mica spray stain in Jack-o'-lantern, and I splattered that liberally onto the background there, and then I'm going to set it off to the side to dry. I know, I was thinking ahead. It very rarely happens, I'm not going to lie. So I'm bringing in some of my Ohuhus. I might have even brought in some of my copics for this one. I was just grabbing what was, close at hand. But I did bring in my yellow grays. I don't color with the yellow grays, and I had recently purchased an Ohuhu marker chart by somebody that compares, your closest to your copic ones. I can't say that I was impressed with the chart, so I'm not going to tell you who it was or where I got it off of. I was unimpressed I could make better blends, but I don't own all of the copics, so it was hard. But she had put on there that the yellow grays were more of a warm gray, like took place of a warm gray. And I guess I had never seen them that way, so I was like, well, you know, they kind of have, to me, they kind of have a greenish tint. It's not like the green grays, but they just have this tint to it that's not, I don't know. And I thought, ooh, that might be a perfect tint for a Halloween gray. So that's why I ended up bringing in my yellow grays. I was pleasantly surprised with the warmness of the yellow gray. I just didn't see it when I had color swatched them out. So on to Get Creepy on Halloween. I do a monthly card and or project for the last day of the month. It posts at midnight for my love of Halloween. I never get all of my creations that I want done for the Halloween season because, well, it's my favorite time of the year and my most creative time of the year. And so this allows me to, you know, get my Halloween stuff out and get my creative juices flowing again. Follow along, and anyone can play at the Get Creeping on Halloween hashtag on here and on Instagram. So I hope you join me. Back to my coloring. I just brought in some of my pre-done color combos. Realized that my G554 is actually darker than my G369 on my color combo. So that's why I did put little dots next to them so I could see that your third color there, my dear, is actually darker than your second color. It happens to the best of us. I do my color combos a lot on relying on my swatches, and if I didn't, you know, I don't know, do a third layer or something, I'm really not sure. I did come in with a metallic gel pen, or glitter gel pen, I guess it's glitter gel pen, and went over the Don't Make Me Flip my witch switch on the lettering there, and then of course I did some purple glitter pen on the top, so it kind of has that two-tone effect there. There are all of the markers that I use to do my coloring. And then I did run, the big one comes with the die, so I have that one. And then the little ones I ran through my brother's Scan and Cut. And yes, after all that coloring, my background was still wet. Me trying to hurry it along. It really didn't work. And I'm about as patient as a toddler waiting for candy. So I hadn't decided what I was doing on that bottom piece yet. And I don't have a wood grain stencil. Is there a wood grain stencil? And if so, tell me where. I want a wood grain stencil. A nice wood grain stencil. Preferably a multi-layered wood grain stencil. But anyways, so I brought in the mini Tim Holtz. I want to say this is the Crackle stencil. It's in the kit, so, or in the pack, so I don't know what pack it was in, but I'm pretty sure it's the Crackle paint. Crackle paint. I thought about going black. I wasn't feeling it. And so, you know, I decided to bring in, I want to say I did espresso here. And because it was dark, that was why I picked espresso. I probably should have gone with like the, is it the twig one or vintage photo? Something that was going to match the brown on my sign that he's holding, or she, whatever, is holding. I think I would have liked it better in that respect. But don't worry, I fixed it in the end because we all know. So I kind of did this one multi-layer. If you've watched any of my videos with the water stencil from MFT, you just continually turn it to get the layers of ink to make it look like water. And so I was kind of trying to do the same thing, but not water. I kind of wanted it to look like a cracked forest floor, or, you know, something along like a really dry dirt outside floor thing. I don't know, or cracked linoleum. I don't know. So I did trim it down. I was okay with it at this point, but you know how when you're just not overly happy with all of it, And so life happens, and yeah, I changed my mind. So you can still see that my orange splatters are definitely still wet, and it was all right. I just needed to trim a teeny tiny bit off the bottom there, and my little trimmer is not nice for 5.5 measurements. That's all I'm gonna say. It drives me nuts. And so I kind of blotted up a little bit of the orange. I did not buff off the orange from my spider webs, and I was okay with that. And in retrospect, I probably should have maybe added some orange to my coloring. I think it was on my mind when I did the orange splatter, and then I forgot about it when I was coloring. It happens. So I'm going to bring the stencil back in. I'm going to bring in some Distress Opaque regular paste. It's not crackle paste. And I'm going to bring in Broomstick from the mica spray stains. You can't see the mica in the finished product, which kind of made me sad because I kind of wanted to have the sparkles. Maybe if I'd have used the translucent one, maybe you'd have seen the sparkles a little bit more. I don't know. Anyways, I colored my paste with my little palette knife here, and then I'm just going to sweep that over the top. Sorry, I'm a little bit off camera. Amateur rookie mistake. Don't worry, even as a professional, that's probably how I do it. And yes, waiting for it to dry. Did I wait for it to dry all the way? You know I didn't. It's mostly dry. So while that is drying a little bit more, I am going to put the hat on my little big grumpy here. Of course, just covering up one of his ears. And then adding some foam squares all over on the background, and then lining my panel up while it's still wet and trying to place it on the card base. Jaime, how well did you line up your card base? Yeah. And, oh, well, let's just trim it off a little bit more because you were way off on you're getting it on the card front, right? Well, yeah, I ended up taking it to the big guillotine trimmer and then I ended up hand scissoring it because it was still wet, so it doesn't cut very good. Patience is a virtue. Or you just continually have to correct your mistakes for not having that virtue. And I will bring in some more foam tape for some of my images here. Just trying to fill in the scene a little bit with those Halloween pieces from the Big Grumpy Halloween add-on. I really wanted to put googly eyes in the skull. Maybe next time. Anyways. And then I was going to leave because I don't have the dies for this one, I was just going to leave it. And then I decided, no, I didn't want the handle or the space of the bucket to cover up all of the sign. So I did come in with a craft knife here. It's a new one. I picked it up off of Amazon. It's okay. Nothing to write your mother about. Will I use it? Probably, because it's like a pen, so it kind of holds its ear, but it's not as good as my X-Acto knife. I'm just full of today. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I'm going to add a little bit more foam tape to that one and then pop that on the front. Of course, I really didn't need to make all of this foam tape because it's going to overlap my already popped up Big Grumpy, and I realize it at about this point that, yeah, you're not going to need to pop up all of those things. A little bit of glue will work just fine. You know, I have weeks like this. Yeah, it just is. And then I realized, oh, yeah, I put my foam tape too far, so I just moved it down, wiped up my glue, and called it good. That's what we call a day. So I'm going to add in my little pieces of candy here, giving a few more pops of color to the bottom of that card. And then I did put the ghost up on top, straight on the background, so he's kind of behind Big Grumpy there. You know, floating in between the bats, I guess. So the inside I did stamp I'm Here for the Candy and Happy Halloween from the Unraveled stamp set by Tim Holtz. And then I added those last final 2 pieces of candy that I already colored and cut out to bring the outside in for the card. And then I'm bringing in my gel pen, or my black gel pen here, to add a little bit of, you know, pops to the eyes. Did it work? I don't know. It was so-so. I think my pen needs a little bit more love. I need to warm it up a little bit more, or, you know, make sure it's flowing better before I do all the things. I did add it to his entire nose, and I just wasn't impressed with. Usually it gets like nice and glossy and it blends, and I think my ink just wasn't flowing. I haven't used it for a while. Probably, you know, why I should have primed it better on a piece of paper. So there is my completed card, and I hope you enjoyed Get Creepy on Halloween, June 2023. Anyways, have an amazing day. Keep getting inky. Bye!